All right, we're live. Happy Friday, everybody. Or should I say, thank you, it's Friday, hashtag TQIF. Getting started to kick off the weekend.
Also, hashtag must see YouTube. That's the other hashtag.
Yeah, that was the ABC catchphrase from back in the day. Yeah, I'm joined with Starfleet Boy and Brian, and in just a minute we'll get started and talk about some Star Trek Lower Decks. We were having an off-mic conversation about like our beverages of choice. I think Starfleet Boy, do you want to tell people what you're drinking tonight?
It's a variation on the sidecar called Classic Trek with a twist.
Classic Trek with a twist?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a TOS drink?
It's a TOS drink. And
okay.
It was inspired by it was inspired by something said on Trek Lads podcast by Rebecca. And so I think she said classic Star Trek with a twist, and then I called it classic Star Trek with a twist. And then Robbie pointed out that could also be Star Trek Discovery. So it's a very meta drink. It's a very meta cocktail.
Word. Brian, what about you? What are you drinking this evening?
I am having water, though in a nice Starfleet glass. I don't know if you can quite get that. You can see a little bit of the arrowhead there, the bottom half. Yeah. The light can't seem to quite get it. There you go. Cool. Just gotta put some shade on it. There you go. A little TNG gas. So and then nice. If that runs out, I have my my Star Trek water bottle to refill it here. So
nice.
But yeah, I find alcohol makes me sleepy, so that's not good for a podcast. So
that's why you have coffee just before you start drinking the martini.
Yeah, that's why I drink sugar-free Red Bull. I drink sugar-free Red Bull during Tex-Trek, and then when we go to Starfleet Boy after dark, I switch to beer. Well, also because I sleep less than 4 hours a night, and I'm always ready to crash by the time I make it to Friday.
See, caffeine makes me more alert and focused, but I'm ADD, and it kind of socially brings me down and makes me less chatty and more introverted, which is not good for a podcast.
Not good.
Yeah, so if I'm drinking caffeine at one of these, it means I got no sleep whatsoever, and I'm figuring that the balance is better to be awake and not fall asleep. I'm playing balancing the two evils there.
I catch like maybe one more hour of sleep than Fathery. So I need coffee every now and then, but I manage my doses.
Yeah, I have to go through a lot of coffee. We have a lot of people watching us now that we're not even like talking about Star Trek. So maybe we should keep going. But we do have a tight schedule to keep. We have a Tex-Trek podcast to do, and then some Starfleet Boy after dark. So the show must move on. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm Fathery.
This is Brian.
Do it again. We'll take it from the top. It'll sound like a podcast. So hell, you go first since you're up top. Okay. I'm Fathery.
I'm Starfleet Boy.
This is Brian.
And this is Tex-Trek.
Engage.
Welcome back aboard the Starship Texas for the 116th installment of the Tex-Trek podcast, the home of Star Trek fandom from deep in the heart of Texas, where we talk all about Star Trek all the time. And tonight, we three are here to discuss Star Trek Lower Decks Season 1, Episode 8, Veritas. Is it Veritas or Veritas?
I think it's Veritas. I'm not sure.
Well, it's like a Latin word, so I think you're right.
Is it Veritas?
Oh, but this is really cool. The episode is written by Garrick Bernard.
Who's
I'm
Garrick?
assuming their first name is Garrick. It's Garrick.
Oh, Garrick, like Garrick. Oh my gosh.
But I mean, it's spelled different. But
yeah, Garrick instead of Garrick.
yeah, Garrick Bernard, and directed by Kim Arndt.
I will say that now after watching several of these, I can kind of tell. I think I'm starting to be able to guess which ones are McMahon. Is that how you say his name? The showrunner.
Mm-hmm. But he has written a ton.
Yeah, but it was there's definitely a different flavor to quite how they pitch the jokes. You can kind of feel that this is a slightly different writer than that writer was. Not so much in the characterization or the continuity, but in quite what types of things they find funny and they put in there. What style of humor. It feels like there's sort of slides around a bit from episode to episode, which is fine. It keeps things fresh. But.
Well, that's funny you comment on the jokes, because I really liked the jokes in this episode. I thought they were very clever, and I want to mention that in my opening statement. But before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and give the synopsis for this episode, and then expand on it with spoilers just to quickly summarize it, and then we'll each give our opening statement. But here's just the general synopsis that I pulled off of Memory Alpha. Mariner, Boimler, Tendi, and Rutherford are caught off guard when certain aliens force them to testify about a series of apparently unrelated events. So basically, just to expand on it with spoilers, we get a courtroom drama, even though it ain't really a courtroom. But each character tells a part of a story about a stealth mission across the Romulan neutral zone. And the story has a meta plot that is kind of an explanation of the show's premise itself. So I thought that was really cool. And, we'll just each give kind of our general impressions. Brian, I can tell like you're really eager to talk about this one, so I'm going to let you do the first opening statement.
I guess as far as openings went, I really enjoyed the fact that we do get the tired old trope of somebody puts the hero, the department heads of our hero's ship on trial. And they're not the main characters, however. The main characters are just witnesses. They're not even the lawyers. They're the witnesses. I really enjoyed that. Was a very, very lower decks thing to do, in that, no other Star Trek would have had people had a courtroom drama and then made the protagonists just some witnesses, and not the lawyers, not the guys on trial, just the witnesses. I thought that was very, very lower decks. And
yes.
Yeah. I definitely have to give points for that. I guess I don't know. It was fine. I laughed. It was fun. There seemed to be a running theme, not just of mistakes, but mistakes being made because of assumptions, of making the wrong assumption about things. People assume this, and it's actually that, and it leads to mistakes over and over and over again at pretty much every level in this story. Even a lot of the side trips that we got were kind of that sort of thing. And I don't know, there was a part of me that was like, it's okay to make lots and lots of mistakes at your job, necessarily the message we need in 2020. But, there was definitely a running theme of making assumptions leading to mistakes in this. So, which I thought was at least unified it thematically.
Very cool. Starfleet Boy, do you want to give your opening statement?
Yeah, I kind of, as usual, I feel really aligned with you guys. So like, I kind of just want to add to everything you said and just say that, like, for me, this was like the declaration episode, like in that, what kind of in that same feeling of like, it could be another pilot, like a secondary pilot. It does really state what Lower Decks is in a really great way. So if you only saw this episode, I think you would be very interested in seeing more episodes of Lower Decks. And I like that about it. I am having trouble like placing it, because I like to rate everything and categorize and like, what's my favorite and this and that. But I think it's like pretty much my new second favorite episode.
Second favorite. Okay. So who's your favorite right now? Who's your favorite?
Which is my favorite episode?
Yeah.
I think last week's episode. I mean,
I thought last week you said that was your second favorite episode.
You made it my favorite episode, remember? If you recall, the discussion made it my favorite episode. And so I remembered that, Fathery.
Cool. Well, for me, this episode was one I was really looking forward to because Mike McMahon has said that he's very proud of the last 3 episodes, and he felt the show got stronger in the second half of the season. I was curious to see that. I think I've mentioned it several times in the past. And I love this episode. It is, to me, the first amazing Lower Decks episode, and it is by far my favorite. And I hope that episodes 9 and 10 are just as good as this one. It goes heavy on some of the references, the callbacks that they do. I think it does that like a little too much. Some of the things are like too specific, like Mark Twain with a gun or the Uhura fan dance being referenced, but I just kind of have to accept that. That's really like my only criticism, though. I think the story structure was really clever. I thought the gags were really clever. Things like Tendi's omissions, the way that like the people had their faces blocked out, or like certain words were poorly bleeped out. I thought that was clever. Like Rutherford's blackouts and the payoff they build to. At the wedding that we'll talk about, like I thought that was really clever. Just like the big reveal at the end, and when you watch it the second time, you kind of see things building up to that. I thought that was really clever. So I definitely had like a really good time with this one. I thought like the meta commentary, kind of addressing some of the criticisms they knew would be coming about isn't Starfleet supposed to be perfect and infallible, and the message of this episode to me is that like no, it's really like never been like that, and you should give these people like a little bit of slack. The point of the show is that there's some people who are not as informed, not as involved, and they're probably not going to be on top of things as some of like the people we've seen before who are like the bridge crew on a flagship. So it's something they've kind of always pitched the show as being about.
Yeah, I guess I have to. I think you're right. I hadn't seen that, but now that you shined a spotlight on it, you're right. I think this is the most clever of every episode that they've done so far. That I have to. You're right. I really do have to. I should give them props for that. Yeah. It is the most clever.
Not all of the jokes were super clever. Like Endorian Man repeating like oh no, they're scanning us. Wait, we're good. Oh no, they're scanning us. Wait, oh, we're good. Oh, like I mean, that's not exactly smart. Or like some of the other jokes in there are not extremely clever, but like the ones that were clever like really stood out to me. And they're the big
and the structure. The whole structure of the story is incredibly clever too, at least by the standards of Lower Decks.
Let's go ahead and start talking about that.
We're only 12 minutes in, and you've already convinced me that it is my new favorite episode. So bravo, that's record time. Also, if I could take a quick minute of the podcast to just say, Alexandra, I see you in the chats, and I didn't see your messages, and I'm sorry, and I will look after TQIF. If I'm in any state to look on Facebook, I apologize.
Yes, we have some regulars joining us live, Alexandra and Stress Free K and Pastel Pirate. So thank you all for joining us in the chat, and be sure to let us know what you think about the episode as well. We're just going to run down things right now and kind of not go exactly scene by scene, but kind of we'll just talk about like the opening, and then I guess we'll get into each of the four characters and their segments of the episode.
Fathery, the planet, it's another Earth.
Yeah, so I didn't realize this, but this planet here, Ketuvin Prime, Starfleet Boy, you and our friend Trek on the Tube pointed out that
it was Trek on the Tube who found it for me. Yep. I didn't. Yeah, it was cool.
But that's like Asia at night, but turned sideways. The way that those lights are lit up on the planet.
Oh, okay.
Like
you're right.
You think about it, now I see like you can see India and Indonesia, and then like Japan is kind of up at the very top.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. No, you're right. Very nicely played.
Yeah, we're currently looking at people that are watching us on video on YouTube or Facebook. We're looking at a video of it now. But yeah, so this is where we're having what is presented as a trial. We later find out it was a big party. And the event silo It actually has like a balloon on it in the very beginning of the episode. A little clue.
I totally
There's a
didn't
balloon
notice
next to the
that.
door.
It's so great.
Yeah.
It's so understated. They're such an understated and weird civilization. They're like so strange.
I guess I wouldn't call their architecture understated, but
Right? It's true.
they
Well,
do have
the
the
little
inevitable
balloon on it, like-
diagonal rocks. I noticed just sticking out of the ground. Like every planet has diagonal rocks.
Very Vasquez, very Vasquez. But yeah, we start off with our characters in kind of a dungeon. They don't know what they're imprisoned for, and they're taken up into what really resembles a Star Trek courtroom that we've seen before.
I can't help but hear the Star Trek 6 score during that sequence when Kirk.
Oh, yes.
You know, it's like.
Oh, and they're like,
It's like it was like Duel of the Fates before Duel of the Fates.
Yeah.
Very good.
I was by the time that thing was going up, I was like, "Oh, they're on trial on by the Klingons." The planet name sounded vaguely Klingon. The spiky orange architecture looked vaguely Klingon, and then they're doing this incredible Klingon call out. So I was actually very surprised when something that wasn't a Klingon stepped forward. In fact, there was a moment where I was like, "Is that a disco Klingon?" But
well, it does look very orc-like. You know, a lot of people like to call those the Klingon orcs. But yeah, not only do we have the orc people, but we have the senior crew, and they're in like this stasis field, and you know, we think that like they're being held prisoner, like they're the ones on trial, but actually like they're supposed to be like in the spotlight, like literally in the spotlight, like being honored, being celebrated. And they're kind of in like heroic poses.
You don't notice that the first time around. It's a real great, like it gets you really good with all. There's a lot of clues, but you don't see those.
I did think there was something weird going on. Like they looked kind of like unusually stoic. I would have thought they might have been like a little more animated, no pun intended, or more manic.
Yeah.
I request those pins, a pin of those poses be made for each of them.
And they look good. They're sharp designs. They look good and Starfleety in all the right ways.
I did have a question on this opening when I rewatched it, knowing how it all wraps up at the end. Apparently, these aliens, what are they called?
Well, they call themselves like the Primes. He says fellow Primes.
Primes, okay, the Primes.
Katuvan Prime.
Katuvan Primes. Yeah. The Katuvan Primes are capable of capturing our lower decks characters in such a way that they have no idea what's going on. They what do they just wake up in the cell or something? Or
yeah, I was curious. Were they just like beamed down? And like I think they're just being like marched from like the transporter pad to this event silo, not a dungeon, but
I guess I'm like, they're clever enough to catch these guys so much so that they have no idea where they are or anything, it seems like.
Right.
And yet they can't figure out how to get one of their own out of Romulan space. They need the less clever Starfleet to go do it for them. So
well, strange customs on Katuvan Prime.
This is true. You can excuse just about any weird thing that happens with these guys just by saying strange customs.
And our main Katuvan Prime character that we get is named Clar, and he is voiced by a Star Trek veteran actor, Kurtwood Smith, right? Kurtwood. So I was very happy to have him, and he does such a great job. He makes this guy both menacing and also like really weird, and in a strange way sympathetic by the end of the thing. I do kind of feel sorry for him, but he's presented as like this prosecutor, and he even like brings in the horn of candor, and I love that he says like one of our most sacred horns. So apparently they have like these multiple ceremonious horns on this planet, but we're led to believe that the lower deckers are here to testify.
And like in Star Trek 6, this guy also is missing an eye as he marches around the central thing. You know,
and it's like the same layout. You have a judge type guy up high, and then other people watching on like the outer perimeter, and then down on the floor in the pit with the people on the witness stand, you have the prosecutor antagonist type, like Chang in Star Trek 6.
Yeah.
I wish they'd gone a little further and done the gag about "Don't wait for the translation, answer me now." Like that would have been. That
was actually taken from real life.
Yeah, have an Easter egg of an Easter egg.
The ultimate Gorn egg. There are actually a bunch of the Gorn eggs that we always save those for the end of the show. It's going to take me a while to run through the list when we get to the end. I think there was the most here. The second episode of the show might have had more, but this is either like the number 1 or the number 2 most callbacks to previous continuity.
Ooh.
But the first person to testify is Ensign Beckett Mariner. And we'll just go ahead and talk about like her story. They're working on the shuttle and didn't hear the ship go to red alert. So
that was hilarious.
Yes.
I mean, yes, it's a callback to Minuet, but or to the 100110 or whatever. But yeah, that was amazing. Oh, I laughed so hard at that. That might be my favorite. Might be my favorite joke in the episode.
I love how she describes Earth in terms of how boring it is because all people do is drink wine, stay on vineyards, and eat soul food.
I'll point those out in the Gorn eggs because those
sorry.
There is nothing boring about soul food. Let me say.
Even though I am disturbed that these writers don't know there's a big distinction between Creole food and soul food, but
it's true.
I don't know about big distinction, actually. But I mean, like, if you live in the South, you don't think of those as the same thing.
They're distant cousins, but to the outside world, they're like close cousins, so it's okay. It's forgivable.
But yeah, we have an encounter going awry with the Clicket people. They're an insect race. The captain beams aboard with this map of the Romulan neutral zone that will be an important MacGuffin later in the story. And we have the bug man on the view screen, the captain of the Clicket ship. I think his name was Quirg or something like that. But yeah, he's pissed off because she said thank you to him, and apparently that was like an insult. Like how dare you show me gratitude? I think gratitude means something different to your people.
This is a little bit of real life, how I imagine it would be, full of misunderstandings in the galaxy, because like there would be so many weird customs and things that are different. Like, who's to say we're very human centric, but this was a good example of that kind of thing.
Well, there is a question of the universal translator seems magically perfect in Star Trek in a way that goes beyond all belief.
Yeah, but they meet so many new aliens that it would get really old if like they had to deal with the communicate. Like, you can't do Darmok for every episode. I'm glad they have a plot convenient way to bypass the communication barrier. I can't talk today. What did you think of Boimler being put on the hot spot when the captain's like, what do you suggest? And he has like no idea what's going on. He literally just walked into this and sat down.
I guess the captain was trying to give him a chance. I guess she figured it wasn't that dangerous of a situation, and it was time to throw the ball at the new guy and see what he can do with it, which indicates that she's not all that worried that things are going to get out of hand. And admittedly, she would have to confirm any order he gave anyway. But I don't know. Then she seems really upset that he's just. I don't know. It felt weird to me. I was like, what exactly was the motivation for demanding an idea from the ensign and then getting really upset with him when you don't like the idea? So.
Well, I think that she probably thought that he would have been a little bit more aware of what was going on. And because I think she was trying to give him an opportunity. And Shax even says, just like ratchet up the stakes.
Yeah.
Dramatically, Shax even says like, come on, man, this is your opportunity to prove you have what it takes.
Yeah.
which made it funnier.
Look at his expressions here too. They're just like, he's so nervous. It's like
it's like when you're called on in school to like answer a question and you have no idea, so you're like, what do I say to not sound dumb? Evasive maneuver 88.
Yeah. I suppose one could see a pattern with Boimler that as long as he has time to do his homework, he seems to often have a certain amount of confidence, or even if he's just managed to adjust to the situation and figure out the rules for the situation, as he has by the end of this episode.
We don't know how long. We don't know how long that red alert siren was going off. So there's probably like a memo that went out to everybody, at least the people who had bridge duty that day. So he's definitely like missing some information.
And so he seems to panic more when he's asked to improvise, and when he has a knowledge base to fall back on, he seems to have a certain measure of confidence. And so I suppose that there is a certain consistency in his failures and his successes.
But he's unable to fake it like Mariner, and he starts like embarrassing himself with some of the dumb stuff he's saying. I actually, if you're watching the video, I have it like pulled up to where we can see Captain Freeman and Mariner are both face palming at what Boimler is saying.
That's nice.
I don't think Mariner fakes it that much after last week's episode. I think she's actually quite experienced and a lot older than Boims. I think that like he definitely is like faking it, but I think she's just being irresponsible.
Right, but like in this situation, I think she would have been able to like handle it better, or at least like not reveal how like unprepared she is.
But then of course she does the thing when she's like, send them a message. And she totally fails. Like it definitely gets the heat off of Boimler.
Again,
why would you tell your ops person to either to open fire or send a message? Like normally on Next Generation, both those were handled from the tactical station. Who opened the hailing frequencies on Voyager? Was that Harry?
Yeah, I think I want to say Harry.
Okay.
Which is I mean, ops is a weird position anyway, but it makes more sense for them to be doing communications than just about anything else they get called upon to do. So
but Mariner took that message as open fire, and she shoots a phaser at the clickets.
And we see again our making bad assumptions thing that is the running thing throughout this episode.
Yeah, it is a recurring theme. But she's like, "What? Like everyone knows what that means?" And she's like, "No, I wanted you to send them a message to invite them to dinner." So it's like taking it literally. This of course pisses off Claire, their prosecutor, because he's like, you expect me to believe a Starfleet officer wouldn't know what was going on their ship at all times? And Mariner's like, yeah, like I'm not proud of it, but that's the truth. And it's like some of the people that are critical of this show, or at least some of the people who had concerns going into it before it got started, and I had, some of my concerns. Mike McMahon and some of the other people who talked about it did a good job of making me feel better about it, but I didn't want to see Starfleet made out to be a joke. I didn't want Starfleet people to come off as kind of dumb or stupid. I don't want to like bash the Orville. I know like a lot of people like really enjoy that show, but one of the things that they do on there, at least in some of the early episodes I saw, is you would have some of those characters actually be like kind of dumb or do like stupid things sometimes. And I didn't want to see like a Star Trek show that like did that with Starfleet, where kind of what I said like a couple episodes ago with Ensign Fletcher, where I think like, oh yeah, Fletcher is kind of what I think some people were scared Lower Decks would be like, where you have like the stupid asshole who has like no morals, and really he's just kind of like dumb and just like this stupid comedic construct. And that's not what Lower Decks is. But at the same time, you have to give it that leeway, be like, yeah, it's going to be a story about people who don't know what's going on, who don't have all the facts, who aren't going to make the perfect choices. And that's reflected here in the character Claire reacting to Mariner. Like what do you mean you didn't know what was going on? I can't believe that. I refuse to believe that.
And we see a bit of potentially an arc here with Mariner, in that she basically admits she was wrong and apologizes for something, which is not something we've seen a lot from Mariner.
Yeah. So I think they have fine-tuned these characters or grown them, because Mariner and Boimler still have those strong personalities that they had at the beginning of the season, but they've kind of tightened the parameters and how extreme they'll go with their behavior. And Mariner is less of an asshole and Boimler is less of a wimp. And I find that it's working better now than it was in those first 2 or 3 episodes. But yeah, Mariner is ejected from the witness stand and taken to the ill tank, which was
so funny.
Pretty strange, but it was unique. I hadn't seen that before. I hadn't seen that in Star Trek before.
There have been eel tanks and like other things though, right? That's definitely a trope of some kind.
Yeah, it's certainly
It's
there's
like dangling your hero above a shark tank is kind of an old pulpy
Or piranhas.
or piranhas, or something swimming in the water that will devour them if they fall in. Alligators, it happens to like superheroes and James Bond type characters. It happens here.
I like how they also like can boil people in there, and it kind of felt like one of those things in the writer room where they were arguing about whether or not they should be boiling them or eeling them, and why somebody said, "Why not both?" Into the script it went.
In my head canon, I'm going to say these are like relatives of Klingons. They're like distant cousins of Klingons because they seem rather Klingonish. It's so funny.
Well, their culture really, I mean, their architecture and dress sense maybe, but their culture really doesn't seem to be very similar. Yeah. I guess he's carrying around a big sword, so I suppose
it's not like a Klingon sword. It's kind of like a fantasy, like big ass giant ridiculous broad.
Oh, it does feel like World of Warcraft. Actually, yeah.
But if a Klingon walked up with a sword like that, I wouldn't go, "Well, that's stupid. No Klingon would wield a sword like that." I would just say, "Of course, sure, why not?"
He comes off as more like a World of Warcraft or Lord of the Rings type orc with like some road warrior armor, football shoulder pads with metal spikes on them. That is cool design.
One kudos to Discovery that I do give is that I like the variant armors, like that we saw all kinds of Klingon armor, not just like the one standard issued fleet armor or whatever it is, That was kind of
cool. They added some variety in there. But yeah, the next up to testify is Ensign Samantha Rutherford. We learn his first name is Samantha, which is even weirder than Bradward.
I've never heard Samantha before. Is it a real name? Have you had a chance to look it up?
Probably. There's been a bunch of weird names out there, so I wouldn't rule out anything. But yeah,
if there are any Samanthas out there, please comment below.
Is he a boy named Samantha? Because that also seems possible. I mean, Star Trek also gave us a woman named Michael, so
there is a boy named Sue. I know that.
Yeah, Johnny Cashman. There's not only Starfleet boy is there a boy named Sue. There's also a Borg named Hugh.
Okay, that gets another sip of the martini.
Let's talk about the ensign named Rutherford. He's like, oh, I normally have perfect memory from my Vulcan implant, but you're asking about Stardate 5779.1. You're not going to like that because we'll find out this memory here is like full of blanks. So this is, if you're watching it like the second time and you know what's going on with Clar. If you know the deal with Clar about, he's just wanting them to say nice things about the senior officers.
Yeah.
Yes, they risk an encounter with the cricket people to get the map to the neutral zone, and then they bravely captured a Romulan bird of prey. Like, he wants them to like say all these things, and it's funny watching it and just like the frustration. But I do feel sorry for him.
This is the worst episode of This Is Your Life ever.
And the performance is so weird and cartoony that I love it, and I love the balance of humor, and also like he does have to maintain a sense of menace this whole time because the audience thinks that he is an actual antagonist out to get them. But yeah, the Rutherford story, he's rotating the EPS capacitors.
We get a new song, the rotating song.
You get a motor to do that? I mean, really?
Manually, unless he just likes doing it. He just likes to check on the capacitor.
I suppose, yeah, he could just be doing it because he doesn't trust the motors or thinks he'll do a better job.
This is the thing, like, there up until Discovery, I really thought that Starfleet purposely made humans do all the, or like people do all, not humans, but just people do all these jobs because they liked, there was a lack of work to do. So people were like, you don't need a robot to rotate those things. I'll do it. And I'll spend my whole life doing it. It's like these kinds of things, but yeah, you're right. It could be automated.
If anyone wanted to do that, it would be Rutherford because he does have such a passion for, maintaining the starship. But yeah, he's he runs into Commander Billups and Lieutenant Shax. They come up to him, the security officer and the engineer, which makes sense when you find out what this mission is going to be, that those would be the two people in charge of it. But they basically recruit him. They need his implant to get a Romulan flight manuals. So he's like updating it, and it starts this really funny joke of him just like having these inconvenient blackouts. It's kind of like in real life, how like if you don't want your phone or computer to update and like you're putting it off, and, like it happens like really inconvenient time. It's kind of like that, and just whenever he like reboots, he kind of like goes into autopilot mode, but like the screen cuts to black, and then it powers back up, and he doesn't know what's going on. The first time it happens, he's he's in front of like two incapacitated, two unconscious Vulcans stripped down to their underwear.
I love this, and I love that he calls them both Spock and Spock over there.
See, I thought that was like a level of speciesism or racism or whatever you want to call it, a step too far for Star Trek. Like,
Shax is the Worf, though. Shax is the Worf. I think he has a little bigoted.
I think also Bajorans are kind of like, I don't know, they're a little specious. I don't know. They seem like they're a bit. No, it's the opposite. I think they're like, we were sailing through space when you guys were all in when Vulcans were like, nothing. So like they're a bit specious, I think. I agree with you.
Yeah, it just seems like, if you had two minorities laying on the ground and you referred to them by some as the name of some other very famous minority that neither of them were.
By the way, I'm very fond of this whole sequence.
Be the minority. I think Vulcans would be like the white people of the Federation. They'd be like part of like the status quo. They're like, we were like founding members.
It's true. They probably. I don't know.
We don't see them a lot. They don't seem to have a cultural dominance in what we see in the Federation. The Federation still seems to default to some sort of Roddenberry human motif.
Yeah, but I think Romulans probably show up more than anyone else other than humans.
Vulcans show up more than quite possibly, yeah. But
TNG is the only perfect example of that vision. You're absolutely right. The Roddenberry, like that perfect. After that though, like we get so many canonical examples of like Chief O'Brien, having something against the Cardassians, etc. Like
something against the Cardassians in Next Generation. That
did
from the Next Generation.
Oh, it did. Oh, then never mind.
Yeah,
that's what TNG was not perfect.
TNG when O'Brien told the Cardassian when he tells them I hate you because of what you turned me into.
Wait, that was TNG? I totally transplanted that to DS9. I apologize.
That was with Captain Maxwell and the Rutherford.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
It's not so much that Shax is racist as that nobody calls him on it. Like he just gets to be racist and the story just moves on.
No one called Worf on it, though. No one called Worf on it.
That bugs me too.
Also, if I may, I think that Rutherford would call him out if he weren't freaked out and fearing for his life, because he's like, this gigantic Bajoran is holding me, calling me baby bear. There's naked.
Well, I get Rutherford doesn't feel in a position to do that, but there are other people in the room.
Phillips is dealing with re-entry into the atmosphere. Yeah, exactly. Like there's too much going on. So I think we're the ones who need to hold him accountable. I think Shax needs us to go there. But I want to say that this is my favorite sequence in the whole thing because it reminds me of my 20s. I apologize for being a hooligan, but I did black out a lot. And from drinking, and there were times where I was like, oh, how did I end up here? Now I'm in it. Now I'm repairing a car engine at midnight. That's weird. Okay. And all kinds of things like that.
I was enough of a square that I simply took it as a sci-fi trope. I didn't try to map it into real life experience at all.
It felt real.
It's definitely a real thing that has happened.
Says the guy drinking water.
But yeah, he does call him baby bear, as Starfleet Boy pointed out. That's a callback to the second episode when he tried to recruit him into the Bear Pack and be part of the security team.
Oh yeah.
He used the Vulcan nerve pinch to disable these guys, so Shax was probably impressed. But yeah, so all of a sudden he wakes up. There's naked Vulcans, and now he's being thrown out of a ship and parachuting down into a Vulcan museum.
I like that they're in one of those Vulcan shuttles too, or at least it was a shuttle design also used by Starfleet.
I call it the warp sleigh. I've heard it called that a lot, but I'll talk about like what that's from when we get to the Gorn eggs. And speaking of Gorn eggs, there was a lot in this museum where he wakes up, and it's like the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum. I've actually been there in DC, where like they house the original 1960s Enterprise model from Star Trek: The Original Series. But yeah,
did you guys see the monolith from 2001 in the previous shot?
Yeah, there's a monolith in there.
Oh yeah, that is the monolith, right in the middle, and I didn't even. Now I feel stupid.
No, it's great. It's delightful.
It's wonderful. I just can't believe I didn't register that. I feel like such an idiot. The
big one is the Romulan bird of prey, and I like that like Rutherford like recognized it, right off the bat. He's like, oh, a Romulan bird of prey, because it's like, yeah, that's what like the hardcore ship people in the fan base that like really care about. Some people don't really care about the ships. But those of us who do, we were all having the same reaction. We're like, a Romulan bird of prey.
That's true. And there's the T'Planahath back there, which is very cool. I'm assuming it's the T'Planahath.
Or the same class of ship.
Yeah.
But yeah, this cracked me up too when he doesn't really know the details of this mission they're on, but apparently they're about.
Was that a Tholian ship? Oh my gosh, I never noticed it. Sorry,
yeah,
sorry. I know Gorn eggs.
Yeah, there is.
These are all Gorn. These are coming in the Gorn eggs. I know the fans.
Yeah, so he has to pull out the fans to distract the guard.
The moon's a window to heaven.
Rutherford's hand dancing.
It does the job. Better fan dance than I could do.
The guard is like hey, stop that! You're distracting me.
It's in the Starfleet training manual to distract soldiers. Just do a fan dance, and that's to distract any security officers. Just do a fan dance.
I suppose.
You would think other Starfleet security personnel, however, would be wise to a tactic that is in the Starfleet security book.
It's true. That's how devious the Federation is.
Though there is the odd thing, his uniform is like 100 years out of date. Over 100 years out of date.
A modern day phaser rifle.
Yeah. Do you think so? Is he actually one of the museum staff who just dresses up in an out-of-date uniform to fit the museum old stuff motif?
Is he a Vulcan? Is he a Vulcan guard because they're like a Vulcan museum, or is he? I mean, we can't see his ears. He does have kind of Vulcanish eyebrows.
Right, that's the Star Trek 3 era, like that era security officer, right? It's like, don't call me tiny, and then he knocks him over.
That guy had a gray cap, but it's from the beginning of the movie when Dr. McCoy broke into Spock's quarters.
You also see them in the motion picture as well. That's in the background.
But they have a different colored shirt in the motion picture.
Yeah.
But yeah, enough about this. Rutherford restarts again. We don't have time to find out about the museum. We're just going to black out and wake up somewhere else. And it's, oh my God, he is in space. How am I standing here? He's on the cloaked bird of prey, which I just thought was so funny to see him like wake up like this and try to figure out what's going on.
Sean had a problem with the ship decloaking when he bangs on it. I think is there precedence for that? Like, didn't they knock the bird of prey with the spear and it caused, or did they decloak it on purpose? They decloaked it on purpose, I guess, which is different. So never mind.
When did a bird of prey get hit with a spear?
A separate bird of prey, a Klingon bird of prey. I know it's a different cloaking device and everything, but I just was wondering.
Star Trek 4, the harpoon.
The harpoon, yeah. Did I say spear? It was the harpoon.
Like a kinetic force. I don't know. It needed to happen visually to let the audience know. That
I know.
Given that it's a 120-year-old ship, the idea that the things they might be still working some of the bugs out of it makes perfect sense. It could have just been a coincidence that it decloaked at exactly that moment. So.
And then I like that they give Rutherford like a little bit of like action hero stuff to do here. Where Billups is in danger. He's delusional. He's his oxygen level is low, and he has to like action hero save this guy, get him onto the other ship that Shax is on, and do it before the update and reboot happens. And I like that he's like, come on. And he's trying to like run him over there. And I guess he like ran to the cloaked pylon on the bird. And I think he says stupid cloaked bird.
Yeah.
Like a really weird thing you would say in frustration here, but
yeah, I think here's a question I had. Why are they stealing the bird of prey from the Vulcans?
Well, it's part of the episode. They bring that up at the end, and like, why do they do that? Why
so what are your theories? That's what I'm asking, because I don't have one. I can't headcanon.
I have a pretty good one.
Oh, all right.
But I don't know. You be the judge. You tell me if it's good or not. But the first thing I thought of would be that at this time there'd be like a lot of tension between Vulcans and Romulans, and we know that at this time in 2380, Spock would probably be like continuing his reunification efforts, and they would probably want the Vulcans to maintain deniability.
Okay.
And be like, no, we didn't have anything to do with that. Someone broke into our museum and stole. Someone like knocked out guys on our warp sleigh, broke into our museum, and stole that bird of prey. We had nothing to do with it.
I like it.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, it's good.
What did y'all think of I just noticed on the control console. I'm looking at an image of the interior of the Vulcan warp sleigh or Vulcan shuttle, whatever you want to call it. And they actually have like Vulcan language stuff from Enterprise on the control console. That's pretty cool.
Oh, look at that.
But yeah, Rutherford, he rescues Billups and then passes out from the reboot, lands on the controls, puts the ship in warp. They take off. He's knocked out, cut to black, and he wakes up at a Gorn wedding.
With the shuttle crashed in the background.
Yeah.
So this is clearly things did not go according to plan. They ran into more adventure. The GM was not done with them.
I like to think that like the Gorn were like assembling for this wedding, and they're like, oh, there's like a crashed shuttle and this like passed out human. I guess he's like gonna be I guess he's what we're eating for the reception.
It might just be that they're upset with him for crashing the wedding, literally.
yeah, the ultimate wedding crasher right here. Ensign Rutherford. I thought this was so funny. When he's attacked by the Gorn, his implant is gonna reboot again, and he's laughing. He's like, haha, take this, Gorn, thinking that he'll black out, and then when he wakes up, he will have escaped the situation on autopilot. But then he wakes up and he's still there, like no time has passed. I thought that was like a really clever joke. You set up the device, you use it multiple times, and then you subvert it, and that's where the humor
break it.
Yeah, you don't see that coming, and it had like a big payoff. I got a big kick out of that.
No, it is. Given that all of his superpowers come from the implant and the implant not kicking in, it seems like he actually comes out of it in pretty good shape, given that the amount of jaw muscles and teeth that those Gorn probably have. The fact that he isn't like missing huge pieces of his body at the end of this is kind of impressive. But
I thought about that, and what I thought was funny about this gag is because like in TOS, like the Gorn moves very slowly, and I imagine that like if it actually had captured Captain Kirk, imagine if it just nubbed on him, like it actually like just like nubs on him like very slowly, like tearing away. And because we've never actually seen a Gorn attack until now, so they're just like, this is how the Gorn actually attack. Captain Kirk had nothing to be worried about. He would have totally survived. Like
gum you a bit. The teeth are all soft,
right? They're like, he's like,
they suck on you. So, I like the Gorn eyes are these all little crystalline things too.
They made them look like the original series. They didn't try to make them look more realistic. But of course, Clark does not like the story either. He's like, oh my God. So you don't remember any of the details. I wanted, if we've seen this already, we know like, I wanted to hear you tell the story of like this brave attempt of grand theft starship and stealing this bird of prey.
It does occur to me that if the whole point of the stealing the bird of prey was plausible deniability, having a big party where you recount in front of dozens of people, some who weren't even invited, exactly how they stole the bird of prey is perhaps a bad move.
True, but I'm gonna just blame that on Claire and his weird traditions that he's determined to go through. But so Rutherford does not impress him, and he's also taken to the ill tank. So who's next on deck? I think.
Do you guys think there could be an argument that could be made that like a court this could be a party because like at parties you testify about how great the host or whoever is, right? So it's like he's expecting them to do that and they're just like totally off topic. They're not even like addressing it's so funny.
It's some sort of incredibly formalized reciting of the great tale that goes on, the tradition.
Like a Beowulf type setting, like in a like that kind of thing.
But yeah, so Tendi has been acting kind of suspicious this whole episode when she's saying things like, "Oh yeah, I guess I wouldn't know anything about a map," or "Oh, who knows why anyone would want to capture an old Romulan bird of prey." And then, so when it's finally time for her to testify, we learn out that she was kind of on the most top secretest of all these little side stories. But her kind of flashback, it begins with her excited to go clean the conference room. Oh, that was like a little silly where like she's using like a modern day lint roller to clean. I guess it's Dr. Tiana's Cation cat hair.
I have to admit, I laughed hard. I laughed hard at that. Yeah, it's dumb, but boy, did I laugh.
It was a great gag.
Oh, God.
The joke here is when Ransom comes in with these guys whose faces are, or at least like their eyes are blocked out by a black bar. I thought that was pretty clever. I thought like with her trying to like omit classified information like this, and this is how it's presented through the flashback and just kind of like the visual gag of these black bars. I like when like TV, for example, a visual medium does something like you couldn't do this in a novel. You couldn't do this as a stage play. There's something like you can only do through like cinema or through like a comic book or something that has like these artfully constructed images. So I thought that was cool and clever.
I want to know what that team is called. They all have the same tattoo and everything. Really so funny.
Like Section 31 or like something else. Like they
SEAL
don't say
team,
anything.
SEAL Team 6, I guess. Like whatever, like whatever they want to be called.
But they were expecting to run into someone, I guess, codenamed the Cleaner. It was kind of like a cliche, code name.
Who was the Cleaner supposed to be? That's what I want to know.
So, yeah, I wanted to see the actual Cleaner show up right after the ship left, and he's like, "Sorry, I'm late. Somebody had switched off the red alerts klaxons or whatever, and he shows up and he's missed them, and the ship is long gone by then.
Wouldn't it be funny if Rutherford was supposed to be the Cleaner and was actually briefed on that mission, but ended up on the other mission? Like, no.
Maybe he was supposed to transfer, but there was the oxygen failure. I don't know. You could have made it work if you'd wanted to.
That would have been cool if they used that as a way to like tie it back in. But I like the look of these guys. They're a cool design. They all look tough. They all look like they could fit into Star Trek, into a Starfleet kind of special ops unit. I like that they have like an Endorian in there. And Ransom basically is explaining that they are going to sneak in past these Romulan outposts because I guess there's fewer guards on the weekend. So that was a bit much to add that bit.
And they say guards, not patrolling ships, because the map is clearly like showing the neutral zone's a light year across. So the map scale is like 4 light years across or something there. So when they point to something that's 2 points that are 2 light years away from each other and 1 light year away from their path, saying there are guards here on the weekend. I mean, ships there, perhaps. Maybe they can detect, things that are far away, and so they need to go when the ships aren't patrolling. But guards, that made no sense to me.
I do love the detail with the various symbols, like the Federation symbol and the Romulan symbol. Tendi being on a super, from the audience, Ian May says Tendi being on a super top secret mission this episode, combined with how she created the crazy life form in the previous episode, leads me to think that she's the most badass character in Star Trek. Yes, I agree.
You think that I mean, Mariner's pretty badass, so
she is. It's true, but Tendi's badass from a science perspective. She's like a badass scientist.
Yeah, and I think this is also part of her. Like, she's kind of a people pleaser type of personality. She doesn't want to make anyone upset. She doesn't want anyone to not like her, and she's kind of in an awkward situation where she's like, "Oh no, I'm clearly not the person they were expecting." And now they're handing me a phaser rifle and taking me on this scary military mission on this bird of prey. But can we talk about the interior?
At the same time, she's doubtful because she is the cleaner to herself. She's like, I am the cleaner, so they must be talking about me. It's really funny. But
I think she figures out pretty quickly that oh no, this is a case of mistaken identity.
True.
But
true.
This Romulan ship interior. It looks so much like the original series Romulan ship interiors, but also with kind of that color scheme, but with kind of the layout of the Next Generation.
Yeah, I was about to say that it really looks like a Next Generation era Warbird, which was an odd choice because I thought the DS9 had a more interesting bridge layout. But
Mike McMahon is always going to break TNG. He's always going to go in that direction.
They could have gone full TOS because it's a TOS Warbird and done the little TARDIS console type control bridge.
It's true.
So
you needed 5 people to pilot it at all times.
It's more like the Enterprise incident. It's more the Enterprise incident than it is Balance of Terror.
Yeah.
But we also, speaking of Romulan designs from days of old, we also get this D-Deradix Romulan Warbird. We get a few of them when they do the gag of the Andorian guy and the scans if they're coming or not coming.
I wanted to see one Valador class ship in there. I'm fine with bringing back the D-Derex class Warbird, but there should have been a Valador in there as well.
Yeah, talking about the new Warbird that was introduced in Star Trek Nemesis. But like I just said, Mike McMahon's always going to lean towards Next Generation. When
Nemesis
we see Romulan,
is Next Generation, though. But
I don't think he has the same nostalgia for Nemesis as he does for Next Generation. Because later, when we see Romulan individuals in uniform, they're wearing the TNG uniforms, not the Nemesis uniforms, and they have the TNG phasers. It's all very TNG looking.
Yeah. You could argue that the Valdor captains have the weekends off and just leave it at that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't break continuity to not have one there. I just thought it was.
I would have liked to have seen it. I would have liked to have seen it too, though. Actually,
the Romulans get a 3-day weekend.
Maybe.
Yeah. Now, I will say, the shot you've got up, they have definitely strongly. The reason those Warbirds would not accidentally form up all the way around them, they have a strong suspicion that there is something there. They must have some Dominion anti-proton cloak piercing sensors on their ships or something.
Yeah, this is an older cloaking device.
Yeah,
yet they still somehow managed to escape this, which is hilarious. It's there's.
I like to assume that some cleverness was done. We are taking thy freighter and things or something to get out of this mess that they just skipped over. That there was exactly. That something happened and whatever, they got out of it.
They go off to Romulus, capital world of the Romulan Star Empire. Not for much longer.
Oh, Godfather, that was very dark but great. It's true.
And we get to see more of the TNG era kind of stealth mission uniforms.
Though not all of them are wearing them. They've got these. Some of them are wearing their own. This sort of
the cutoffs,
customized. Yeah,
they got to show their guns.
Andorian man doesn't wear any sleeves, and then Terry Crews looking dude only has one sleeve.
Yeah, it's kind of like Michael Jackson in the glove.
I like that though. I like this is kind of cool little. It gives them some character.
Yeah,
I mean, these three. heavy duty military guys are all kind of interchangeable. Like you could give any other lines of dialogue to any of them. We don't really spend time to get to know these characters or anything. So it's just like a neat visual way to give them some individuality. I like it.
In my head canon, they were like hardcore survivors from the Dominion Wars, and they're like, whatever. We're special forces.
Yeah.
Like,
Do a short track. Do a short track about these people during the Dominion War. That'd be neat.
That'd be cool.
But yeah, they take care of these 2 Romulan guards.
Remans are the worst.
I did love the Reman reference. That made me happy.
Yes, the Remans have been really only brought up twice in all of Star Trek. They Nemesis and then one time on Enterprise, and that's it.
Well, and then they got brought up here. So
okay, so 3 times.
and they were parter or 3-parter on Enterprise. So
it was
they
a
were
3-parter.
around in the extended lore throughout, like at least the 80s or late 80s or 90s. Because I remember Remans coming up somewhere. I forget where, but yeah.
I think they were created for Nemesis, at least in the form that they are seen in. Yeah,
they were created in Nemesis. There might have been reference to people who lived on the Remus planet before that, yes. But the idea of like these Nosferatu looking.
No, not those. I always maybe this is like, maybe I'm from an alternate universe and I got shipped into this universe somehow. But in my youth, I remember in the 80s that there was like in the extended, like in either the comics or the books or somewhere in the FASA role-playing game, there was a fleshed out idea for Remans. And they weren't like,
the last Unicorn game role-playing game did have some stuff on the Zalvorians who lived on Remus, though I think they were extinct, but they did, or maybe they weren't. I can't remember. Maybe they were subjugated. They certainly were nothing like the Remans that we know. But
no, nothing like that's. I was actually shocked that they looked like Nosferatu. I always imagined they looked similar to like the Mintakans or something like that. That's
well, that was the original design. If you look at like the script for Star Trek. Nemesis, as they are described as being like Vulcans who spent like their whole life like living in like caves, and so like they've gotten like this like really white skin, but they still have like the Vulcan pointy ears, and they were supposed to be like kind of bald, and I think it does actually mention like a little Nosferatu looking, but I think the director of that movie wanted Stuart Baird, who I don't want to talk about him too much, but probably not the right guy to direct a Star Trek movie. He wanted them to look like more monstrous and more like exciting cinematic movie monster type, and we get the the crazy Ron Perlman design, which I have a picture of if you're watching this on video that I'll show later. But enough about the Remans. They have a extraction to pull off and escape this Romulan base with the package, and this is where we get action hero Tendi. This was actually shown in the first trailer they put out for Star Trek Lower Decks. They show her kicking ass. So this whole time I've kind of wondered, is Tendi going to be revealed to be like a secret like Section 31 badass or something? Like apparently she can kick the shit out of a bunch of like Romulan military. But
yeah, no, that was fun. I guess the apparently Riker's taking the Titan to Romulus to sort out things after Nemesis did not go well, because about a year later, they're breaking in there and just stealing stuff for the Romulans rather than asking for it back or doing any negotiations.
Or they just needed this. They just needed this to be off the books. I think. I am assuming that there were still like some peace talks going on between the Federation and the Romulans, but they really needed to get this guy out of there, so they had to do it like off the books.
And
I don't know why you would use the Cerritos to do that. And like they said, like couldn't this have been a mission for the Enterprise or something, which would have made more sense to me.
Well, to be fair, it is they don't use the Cerritos; they just use some of the people off the Cerritos, and only 2 of the. Is the Goon Squad actually from the ship, or is this some extra Goon Squad that's been brought in?
They're more like the A team, but
the A team, then whatever the A team.
These are all people that we've never seen before, so I think that they were like just brought on.
So really, they just wanted the XO of the Cerritos, and I guess a cleaner that somehow the XO got confused. What's the XO's name?
Ransom.
It's
Jack
Ransom. Yeah.
Ransom got confused and thought the cleaner was Tendi.
I love that you call him the XO, by the way. I wish they used that term more on Star Trek. It's a really great way of referring to the first officer.
Thank you for turning my lack of name memory into a compliment.
They do, though, have Tendi involved, I guess, on accident. So I don't know if the cleaner was supposed to be off of the ship or not. But it is unusual to me that Ransom doesn't know who Tendi is. Like, if they never spoken before, I
can't remember. I meant to look that up. I meant to go and figure that out, but I can't remember. It is funny.
And I also wonder, he's supposed to be like this big horn dog, kind of like hitting on all the ladies on the ship. So it seems odd to me that he wouldn't have noticed Tendi and have registered some idea.
She might just not be on his radar. Orion's might not be his type.
Orion's not doing it for him.
Maybe not.
Does Ransom really strike you as the sort of guy who would say no to the green women? Really? After everything we know about him, that would be like discovering that Worf doesn't like spikes or something. No, I think pointy things are dangerous.
It's true. Well, he is a himbo. It's true.
It is, now that you pointed out, a little weird that Ransom doesn't hit on Tendi during the mission, but maybe she decided to omit that.
Oh yeah, it's just the whole thing with the omission, how it's done so poorly sometimes. Sometimes it does kind of bleep out an entire sentence. We don't really know what was said, but other times it'll be the Romu bleep ends.
Yeah. I put that down to Tendi just starting to say most of the word or something, and then that's how it gets translated, since somehow this is all just this is some weird mental space that most of this happens in, the narrative mental space, because apparently she's just verbally reporting this. It's not some mind scanner going on.
And so at the same time, I think some of the people that are kind of frustrated with a bit of the cartoonier side of Lower Decks, where you can do things have this character do this outstanding, ridiculous action sequence. Some people think that it feels a little too weird or unrealistic, and we see that illustrated here when she does the mission and then she goes back to cleaning, and she's like, "Oh, this is where Billups sits," and she's cleaning the chair. And Claire, I keep calling him Claire. Claire is hold up now. What, you expect me to believe that? And the joke there where she's like, yes, that is where Billups sits. Oh, but then he's like, no, that you beat up all those Romulan military people. It's I totally can picture people watching this and be like, oh, I don't believe that this Ensign Tendi could beat up all these Romulans or whatever.
Now it was. Now I'm blanking on where, but somewhere in that rescue, didn't they mention the Romulan High Council?
Yeah, they said something about the Romulan High Council doesn't have any idea what happened.
Yeah, and that was this would be the normal place where you'd say the Romulan Senate. So I'm is this something government they threw together in a hurry after the events of Nemesis? Because there was, maybe there's a process to create senators or elect senators that they didn't have time to go through. So they, pulled out emergency clause in their constitution that says we can form a high council doing this, unless in 2 days.
They have two chambers of government.
Yeah, I suppose that's possible too. And though there's no mention of, Shinzon certainly acts like he's taken out everybody. There's not, we took out the Senate, but not the House.
Regime changes have been described as happening fairly frequently on Romulus. So I can roll with it. We do know that there will be a Senate.
I'm not complaining. I just thought it was an interesting detail that the Senate has not yet been put back together.
Brian,
there's so much the showcase for.
Brian is a Romulan expert.
Yes, I have tried. At least I've spent a lot of time studying them.
I demand that you give up all your life and go work for CBS, because they need, for Star Trek Picard season 2 Romulan experts, because I really think the Romulans can be explored in a really
I thought they did a great
way.
job at Picard.
No, I agree.
Didn't honestly
I
feel
agree,
like
but
I
they
had a
need
lot
to go
complain
further.
with.
Like they need to ask questions like what you did. Like what happened after Nemesis? Like those are the kinds of things that I want to see, and I feel like you know the answers. So I nominate you. You have to go. You must
I
go.
won't say no.
Starfleet Boy wants Picard season 2 to be like a Romulan civics lesson.
It's true.
I wouldn't complain. I don't think that would sell very well for most of the subscribers, but I wouldn't complain.
Give up your life, Brian, and go work for Star Trek.
Dude, I would in a hot moment. You can't imagine how fast I would say yes for any sort of creative position in a Star Trek TV series.
Well, Alex Kurtzman does listen to Tex-Trek. So Alex, Brian basically said he would work for free. In fact, I think Brian would pay you. Brian would pay you.
I would make it happen. Yeah, I would do it. No.
If you do get the job, would you put in a good word for me? I make great coffees and cocktails, so I could be just like the bartender on the
as long as that's not how I'm not paying them, Yeah.
I can be the guy. Yes, I'm 100% set up to be the Guinan of
All right, not the Quark, the Guinan. Okay, I got to make sure I get Bill is
sell it
right.
Yeah,
Sell it right.
Alex Kurtzman's company, Alex Kurtzman's company, Secret Hideout. I bet at their office building they have like a little 10-forward bar set up. And then Starfleet Boy can work there and wear like that like the outfit that the waiters on Next Generation
would totally wear that outfit.
And
yes,
the character Ben from the episode Lower Decks, like that would be Starfleet Boy.
1,000%.
What, you wouldn't go for the big hat? I would go for the big hat.
I might design my own costume for my my version, because there would be a dash of Quark. You're right. I would want to import a little bit of Quark.
But then you got to have the big Whoopi Goldberg hat.
It's true.
She can serve pizza.
Well, let's get back on track. We got to wrap this episode up. Tendi is also taken to the ill tank, and Mariner, Rutherford, and Tendi, all three, are dumped in, and the burners are activated.
I love that Tendi's worried that the eels are going to get hurt.
Just like she was worried about Badgie, when she was like, "Oh, come on, little guy, you can do it." Like she's just like so nice. There is like no resentment in her heart. It's just like all love and kindness.
Yes.
The only time she's ever like overtly hostile to someone is when she was worried that someone didn't like her. Like,
oh, that's right.
Like she's like the ultimate like people pleaser.
She's a giver on the Myers-Briggs, whatever it's called.
No, I actually don't know anything about that, but if you say so. All those letters are gibberish to me. But what really?
We're the TQIF's father.
Yeah, that's what I am. I'm #TQIF. But no, what really impressed me about this episode was the way that it all kind of ties together at the end with Boimler and him getting like a big opportunity to shine, and the speech he delivers.
And again, he's had the whole time to watch everyone else do their thing and figure out the rules of the room. And once he has some feeling for what the rules are, even though he turns out to be completely wrong, but he thinks he has a feeling for the rules, so then he has the confidence to step up.
Yeah, and the kind of the explanation he gives here, I feel like it's really like the show saying, like, look, like this is what we're about. Klar says, "You're Starfleet. Surely you must be briefed on every contingency." And Boimler is like, no, senior officers don't have time to do that. And Klar is even telling him like, no, you're the best of the best. And
I will say, Klar has no room to throw rocks in his glass house about not keeping people briefed about what their function is in the greater context of their function. He has no room to throw rocks.
That's very true. That's a good point. Yeah, he's kind of full of shit here. I just assume that it's kind of part of the ceremony, part of the tradition, is that like you don't explain it to these people, you just tell them to speak the truth, and that way like it's uncoached, it's unrehearsed. And then after they speak and tell you like the the tell of whatever happened, then you can etch it onto the stone. That's all he's trying to do, and he's dealing with like all of this. He gets to the point where like he gets mad at Boimler, and because he's like, I just want you to tell me how perfect and infallible these people are, and Boimler's like, well, it's not like that, and he's like, human lies, Starfleet is supposed to be perfect all the time, and Boimler's like, no, it's never been like that. Senior officers get stuff wrong all the time, and we see like some examples. Boimler doesn't really get like
examples.
But yeah. Of course, we get the Q cameo.
So good.
Yeah.
And I kind of wish that Mike McMahon hadn't spoiled this. He said during Star Trek Day this was going to happen. I wish I hadn't known that, so I just could have been surprised to see Q and then be like, oh, it's really John Delancey doing the voice. Q is so great to do in animation because you can make things look so insane, like this prankster god would actually create. You put
this is high budget Q right here. It's true.
Yeah,
it's
you can never do this on a live action show, even today. I don't know how I feel about Q just like harassing like any and every Starfleet ship. I guess that is kind of funny.
He practices on the Cerritos, whatever. Like he does all these other iterations of his things on all these other poor ships, and then he really goes after Picard with the good stuff, which is just look at their faces.
I like how he keeps using the French, even though I don't think any of these characters have a French background.
Yeah, and Mariner calls him out on that, but I think that's just like Picard left that big of an impression on Q.
That's just
Q
how
must
you
be
talk
a huge
to humans.
problem. Because in DS9, doesn't Sisko say he went to a conference on Q that there was just a whole conference just on
and Voyager Janeway knew like there's certain Q protocols you follow, and in Star Trek Picard, one of the holograms on the La Serena points out that like Picard was the chief contact with the Q continuum.
Oh, nice. I forgot about that. You're right.
Yeah, Q is super famous. Q is a big deal. Like within the Federation.
Be realistically.
Yeah. It'd be like if we found out like, oh yeah, Loki is real and he'll like come and like alter reality and play pranks on people and
threaten to wipe your
trial.
Yeah, and threaten to wipe your species out. Yeah. That's kind of a big deal.
I did think that John Delancey's voice, it was a little bit more heightened and cartoony. And I know I have never watched it, but I know that he plays a character that's very Q-like called Discord on the cartoon My Little Pony.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and so I think that this is probably closer to like how he voices that character, like a little larger than life. But I like seeing Q in Lower Decks. I would like to see more of them. I never thought we would get more John Delancey as Q. I thought Q2 in 2001, that was it. He said that was it. He said, I'm not doing it again. I'm retiring the character. It's like, okay. And
I had not heard that part.
Years later, we get more. Yeah.
I could, if Picard makes enough seasons, they will do a Q episode with Picard sooner or later. I don't think it's at the top of their list, but as long as if they keep making seasons of Picard, there will be a Q comeback.
Now, Alexandra in the live chat says she feels like Q was wasted on this episode.
I mean, there's nothing preventing. It's not like they blocked out or prevented a future Q appearance, though. So. I don't know what's wasted. What has been lost? I guess
I am on Discord. If you're asking about me, I think they're talking about me. I'm not sure.
No, they're talking about John Delancey voices.
Oh, he's on Discord?
No, he voices Discord.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The character. the other story.
Triangulum Studios is here, and they were like Starfleet boys everywhere, so I assume that's I read wrong, so I apologize. It's true, I am everywhere. It's TQIF.
The next story that Boimler recites is Ransom hitting on a salt vampire that Mariner tried to warn him about. Now I noticed that like at like these stories, like Boimler isn't there, so I think these are more like hearsay things that he's hearing. He might be an unreliable narrator, but so I had problems with this when Mariner was like, that's a salt vampire. I'm like, no, all the salt vampires are supposed to be extinct after that one died in the original series. But then right after she says that, Ransom turns to her and he's like, no, those are all extinct. They went extinct like over 100 years ago. I was like, okay, thank you for that line. I needed that line of dialogue. And so I went from being like upset to being relieved.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, you're right. But
so as long as they acknowledge that they're screwing up continuity, you're fine with it.
Yeah, it works like that. Like if you point out the contradiction, and like acknowledge it, it works better.
Oh yeah, it definitely works better. They have a term for that. It's called when you've got a problem in your story and you hang a lantern on it. You shine a light on it. You don't actually fix the problem, but you do acknowledge the problem in the text.
You're just like you're being front with the audience. You're like, I know this, you know this. Let's just deal with it and move on. But the
deal with it. It's true.
The other one, this is why I think Boimler might have been a little bit of an unreliable narrator. Is the third anecdote about?
Oh, the third was brilliant. Oh, I laughed so hard.
Dr. Tiana on the wrong ship.
Look at this.
Everyone looks almost like a Cerritos crew member, but not quite.
Boimler's like got wings and he's flying. He's like a mosquito. What the hell?
Yeah, I have no idea what that is. Freeman is a man with the same hairstyle. Shax is a Kalon from the episode Half a Life. I don't know what Mariner is with the orange eyes. She kind of looks like Starfire from DC Comics. But I think Ransom is who's that species that the Denobulans, Dr. Phlox's people had like a rivalry with. He's one of those.
Enterprise continuity is weak. I'm sorry.
Yeah, me too. I'm catching up though.
Dr. Phlox's grandmother would be racist against this ransom doppelganger.
This is such a good gag. The cherry on top of this one.
I want to do this in my role-playing game now. I don't know how I justify it because it has to make some sort of sense.
Just steal it.
Yeah, but it has to make some sort of sense at the end of it. And I'm like, how do you explain why these people are similar but not the same without playing the alternate universe card?
Because this is another ship and Boimler isn't here, I think it might be a little bit of exaggeration from an unreliable how identical these people look.
Or this is just a glimpse into Boimler's imagination. This is so good. Look at them. They're like shocked by each other. They're perturbed by one another.
The other ship's doctor who had the same voice. The voice actor who plays Dr. Tiana, she played this other character, which seemed like a deeper, like man, rough man voice.
Oh wow.
But yeah, the Boimler speech kind of culminates with him saying, Starfleet people don't always know what they do, and that's kind of the point. We go out there to explore the unknown and deal with the hard situations, and we're not always going to be on top of everything. We're not going to be perfect, and these people that you're putting on trial, they haven't done anything wrong. You haven't presented that they did anything wrong, and whatever you're trying to get us to tell you, I promise you, whatever they did, it was because they were trying to do good. And this is a sham of a trial. he drops the mic with the horde of candor. He uses it as a mic drop. And that's when we get the big revelation from Clark. He's like, you think this is a trial? No. And that's when they're all like puzzled and confused, and even Mariner's like, it is pretty trial-y, but the lights turn on and we find out it was just like a big happy party to celebrate the Cerritos crew, and Clara's just like, yes, like these brave people rescued me from behind Romulan lines. I was in that package, and your captain and her valiant crew saved me, and I just wanted to honor them and etch their story on here. And the judge guy is like, oh, just setting up for my my little girl's 100th birthday. Like, I've never even seen that guy before. Earlier in the episode, you hear him like coughing, like clearing his throat, like, and we think that like it's because of of something that's going on with Claire, or I keep calling him Claire. That's a hard word for me to say. With Clark questioning the lower deckers. But I think he was just like, your 22 minutes are almost up. Hurry up. Yeah, I need my event silo time. What do y'all think of the reveal here? I loved it. I thought it was well handled. I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it went a long ways to. I like the cleverness. I like the fact that it boosts the episode significantly by taking what looks like a stale story, and the only clever part is that the protagonists are witnesses rather than judge or lawyer, or rather than lawyers or I guess judges. That's something else that's been done in Star Trek, is they make the protagonist the judge. But putting them as the witness stand was interesting to do. But I like that there was another layer of twist that we on top of that to keep things fresh, and throwing Q in there. I noticed Alexandra's also saying that he didn't that the rest of the episode's more interesting than Q, and that's why it's a bit of a waste. And fair point. But I guess the fact that Q's always putting people on trial reinforces the fake out that they're trying to pull on the audience, that thematically it's all about trials, but it's not actually. So Q does reinforce the main A plot, even if you could argue that he's using an A level character in a C level for a C level joke is perhaps maybe not the best use of him, but it does thematically tie in, or rather thematically tie in with the deception.
And then one of the funniest gags was when that clerk or whatever comes in there and he's like, now your time is up. You only paid for 22 minutes. And I looked at the timestamp on the episode. I'm streaming this on CBS All Access. I can pull up the little menu that shows the time. And it was exactly 22 minutes and 7 seconds or something like that. And this guy said, you only paid for 22 minutes. Damn, they timed that out perfect.
Oh, yeah. Well,
that's amazing.
They probably had him record a whole bunch of different numbers, and then when they edited the episode together, they just stuck in the number that fit. But the point is, it did have to be pre-planned and carefully plotted on some level.
Yeah. So. Yes, it's like the level of humor in this episode it just operated on it was more unique and more clever than the previous episodes, and I really hope that it's something that they've figured out in the writers' room, and I really hope this is kind of a direction they want to take the show. I've enjoyed season 1. I think season 1 has been good, but I would love to see more of this going forward. Like I said, this is the first amazing episode in my opinion.
Yeah, I have to say that I agree. I was wrong. It's my new favorite episode.
You can prefer whichever episode you want.
See, now, I didn't think about all this. What I love about these discussions is that I didn't think about all these things, and it's like you're right. There's so many cool elements to this episode.
See, I feel like they it needed something to button it up. The characters don't go through any particular journey. They just sit there and answer questions. And if we'd had one or two, or you could have even done a montage of sequences, but one or two where the characters are at the end saying, wow, I really screwed that up. I messed up. And then the other one says, well, yeah, but we have to remember what Boimler said. It's okay to make a mistake, and we just have to keep moving forward and make sure we do better next time, or something. Some little moment of self-reflection. Maybe even, if you tone down Boimler's speech at the end, which I don't know if that's a good idea or not, you could have even had Mariner feel like she was the one who messed up, and Boimler tells her it's okay to mess up. And that would have been an actual really cool bonding moment between them. I think just something to personalize this, because it's all very, very impersonal in the story we get. It's clever and it's got lots of funny jokes, but there's I don't know if there's a lot of heart to it, at least not for me. And one little bit of insight into the characters and how they dealt with on a more introspective level, I think would have buttoned it up and pulled the whole thing together a lot tighter for me.
But I did like the note that it ended on when, Captain Freeman is like, okay, well, from now on, we'll have more clarity on the ship. But then they start asking all these questions that we know can't be explained for, the purposes of storytelling. But they're like, why did we have to steal that Vulcan ship? And why didn't the Enterprise do this and all this stuff like that? And I like the joke that they set up here with Mariner going like, oh, look at Captain Clarity over here. He's like, well, obviously I can't divulge that, or that's classified. But it was basically saying like, yeah, you know, this is what the show is going to be. Like, these are the people that are out of the loop that have been, you know, established in things like the TNG episode Lower Decks, where a big part of that episode is, you know, those people don't know what's going on all the time. And this is about like getting that perspective. Like in a traditional Star Trek show, when you have your security officer and your chief engineer to figure out, okay, we're going to go do this mission and do this. And then like the next scene, you see them with like some red shirt security guard with them. And, you know, what about that guy's perspective? He wasn't there in the last scene. Does he know what's going on? What did they tell him? You know, what's his day like? And the show is going to be about that. And that's how I interpreted this ending, is like, yeah, this is going to be a show where you don't have all the answers, you don't have all the information, and you're seeing it from the perspective of the people who part of their daily life, their daily work is dealing with those situations from that point of view.
Yeah. Here's something of a side question that's Lower Decks related. One of the most sitcom-y things we get in TOS Star Trek is the ending where they tell a joke and everyone on the bridge laughs. And that feels like it's right out of classic sitcom structure. Have they done an ending like that on Lower Decks? I can't.
They do it with the bridge crew. Like, they did it in the first episode where the bridge crew is laughing about when Ransom's crying about like, how much flesh did I eat?
Yeah. Okay.
But Dr. Tiana is like, I guess I have to write like another paper, or do all the paperwork to get like the award-winning recognition for this virus cure and stuff. And they're like laughing about it. And they do that here. They have that joke here where when they rescue Clar out of the crate, and he's like, I'm going to throw you a party. And then Dr. Tiana is like, oh, well, I guess I have to shave and it bleeps out whatever she said.
Yeah.
And well, then the captain is like, well, maybe you should. And they're all like, oh.
Yeah, you're right. That is okay. So they are playing with that trope. I'm just
they do it to kind of make fun of the bridge crew. Like, the bridge crew kind of thinks that the show is about them, and it's not. But
that's awesome.
I like the actual tag ending of this episode with Q showing up, even though it does kind of diminish Q a bit for me. That like I almost want to say that he's overused, not underused, but like overused, to be like Q. Like, he knows Mariner, like he's met Mariner before. But I guess
gag was great.
Yeah.
I would argue, my mind.
If you are a fan of Q, this is the scene I think that you have is very objectionable, because everyone's blowing Q off like he doesn't matter, and that I can see how, if you're a fan of Q, how that would be irksome. But
we're not dealing with your Q bullshit. It's cathartic though, because especially like after how Q treats Janeway on Voyager, I kind of do want people to like be dismissive of Q. Like, he needs to take it down a notch.
I will say, as a game master, I've had multiple times where the players are like, no, Brian, we're done. We're not biting on this new plot complication. We just ignore it and keep on walking. I was like, oh, that feels so. I've so been in Q's seat in that.
But I like when Mariner's like, go bother Picard, and then Q is just like, Picard is no fun. He's always quoting Shakespeare and making wine. I guess Q. I guess Picard is making some wine before he retires from the Enterprise E. I guess he has some involvement with a vineyard after his brother died.
Maybe there's like a little wine section. Maybe there's a wine section in the Arboretum. Who knows? Like a couple of vines. You can make a couple of bottles.
The Enterprise E. Or maybe like Q felt bad for Picard after his brother and nephew died, so he doesn't like harass him as much as in the era movies.
Now I want an episode where Q harasses Picard, but in the process sends him back to get a chance to say goodbye to his family members, and that it's kind of like some of the other Q. I look like I'm an asshole, but I'm actually trying to do something nice for you. Stories that would actually be really sweet. I don't know if you could really do it, but
you could do it in a short trek. Maybe it'd be hard because the actor who plays Robert died recently.
Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, it's just an idea.
Is there anything else that y'all want to say about this episode before I go into the Gorn eggs?
It's delightful. It's a lot of fun, this episode. There's a lot of great gags.
It was definitely fun. Very fun. As I said, it's fun and clever. I think it needed a little more heart. So.
Oh, and I just want to point out
like 10 more minutes.
I want to point out in the chat that our friend PJ, aka Boatwreck, did look up the Antarans was the race I was trying to think of that alternate ransom. The Antarans, they were the ones who had like the rivalry with the Denobulans. I'm just going to go ahead and try to go through these Gornegs as fast as I can because there are a lot. So here I go. Let's see how I do. The episode opens in the courtroom-looking event silo, complete with like the metal gavel hitting to make sparks, and that kind of like that elevator ride up to the bright light, which looked a lot like Star Trek VI. Very similar courtroom layout, and also had a gavel, a big metal gavel that made sparks. Kurtwood Smith voiced Klar, and he is a Star Trek veteran actor. He was the president of the Federation in Star Trek VI.
This president is not above the law.
He was the Cardassian security chief on Terok.
I just watched that one.
Yeah, it's a good episode. And he was also in Voyager in Year of Hell as Anorax.
Yes.
Mariner is kind of disgusted with Boimler for citing the character Roga Danar as the biggest badass in history, I guess. That was a character from the TNG episode, the Hunted. He was the super soldier. I always get this episode.
Rogan Danar was awesome, and I love that he got referenced.
Yeah, cool. I always get this episode confused with High Ground, the episode right after it about like the terrorism. But in that same scene,
the same thing.
In that same scene, they also point out Khan as a big badass in history, and he had a thick with two C's, a thick chest, and he was a space seed. That's one of the things that bothered me like a little too like insidery to like actually reference the episode title, but yeah, Khan with his thick chest.
Well, they do actually call Spock actually says, "What do you think this seed will grow?" or something, and so they do call him a seed in the text of the episode.
It doesn't seem like very natural, organic dialogue when Mariner uses it, even though that it does call back to something. Mariner and the turbo lift going up to the bridge is talking about boring Earth life, like we mentioned earlier, with there's nothing to do but drink wine and eat soul food. So I think those are references to Picard's family and Sisko's Creole kitchen. The neutral zone map does kind of have like that little bulge into Federation space. It's kind of it's kind of not exactly, but a similar shape to what we saw with the neutral zone in the original series, A Balance of Terror.
It also owes a lot to the map on the floor of the Senate in Nemesis. In fact, probably more to that map than to this to the TOS map.
One of my favorite things in this episode was that it included the actor Kenneth Mitchell as the Clickett captain. Kenneth Mitchell has been in multiple characters in Star Trek Discovery. A couple of years ago, he was diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's. Is that what it's called?
Yes.
So he's actually like confined to a wheelchair now, but he was in season 1 and season 2 of Discovery as multiple Klingon characters. He was Cole. He was Cole's father, Coleshaw. He was the time baby, Tanavik. And he does 3 characters in this. He's the Clickett captain, he is the museum security guard, and he's one of the Romulan security guards. So with this episode, he went from having played 3 Star Trek characters to having played 6 Star Trek characters.
That's amazing. Kenneth Mitchell, cheers to you.
Yeah. And I think he's going to be in Discovery season 3.
That's amazing. Awesome.
When Billups and Shax are talking to Rutherford about being recruited onto this mission, they ask him if he's had all of his shots, and then talk about denobulan flesh-eating bacteria that'll eat right through your underwear. Denobulans being the species of Dr. Phlox that have been seen on Star Trek Enterprise. The Vulcan disguises that they're wearing, I thought this was like really neat. But they're kind of like a reverse of Spock in Star Trek 4, where they're wearing robes and then like this headband around like their eyebrows and ears. because that's how you would hide if you're Vulcan or not Vulcan. And like Rutherford has his Vulcan ear on his Vulcan implant exposed. But yeah, it's kind of the same thing as Spock's disguise in Star Trek 4. You cover the eyebrows and the ears, and humans and Vulcans are pretty interchangeable. I don't know how like Shax was going to explain his Bajoran nose ridges, but he didn't seem too worried about it. The ship that they're using during that sequence, as we pointed out, is the Vulcan warp sleigh that was introduced in Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
And I think this is the first time they brought it back since then in licensed, or at least in television Star Trek. There was one, if you back up to that scene where they were all in the shuttle together, there was a one I want to point out, an Easter egg.
The phaser? Are you going to talk about the phaser?
Yes. Right there, that is a Vulcan phaser lying on the floor. Carefully. Huh?
I thought it looked more like a Ferengi phaser, but
no. Well, I mean, when I was researching a bunch of Vulcan equipment for a role-playing session, I found photos, and that is an actual Vulcan phaser that was built for a Vulcan to use in a TNG or DS9 episode. I can't remember which.
Okay.
So
I don't recall it being on screen.
I can get you a photo of it. I've got a photo of the prop in my.
Yeah, I'd be curious what episode that's in. And then I got to get through these really quickly because there's just so damn many. But in the museum of all those ships we see hanging up, I'm about to name all of them. We have sweet. The Romulan Bird of Prey. We have the Katinga, or maybe D7 Klingon battle cruiser. There is a Workbee, a Starfleet Workbee, a Jem'Hadar fighter. There is the Tholian ship, a Ferengi shuttle, a Type 6 shuttlecraft, a Type 15, or maybe Type 16 shuttle pod. They kind of look the same to me. A Type F shuttlecraft, that's the one from the original series, and the Taplanahoth, which was seen in Star Trek First Contact. And we also see a ship like that in the Star Trek Discovery episode Lethe. The security guard in the museum, as we pointed out, he is wearing the security gear from Star Trek 3. And the fan dance, as we pointed out, is from Uhura in Star Trek 5. When Billups is hallucinating from nitrogen intoxication, he references the episode Time Zero, Part 2, when Mark Twain was packing heat, waving a gun around. And also when he says, Tasha, the trash bag's behind you. Or, he says, Tasha, no, the garbage bag's behind you. That is referring to, I believe, her being killed by a garbage bag in the episode Skin of Evil. Some of these things that like I said, are just like a little too specific for a guy who like wasn't there. I get like he could have read about this in their logs, but it just seemed like a little bit too specific references. But the Gorn wedding had, of course, like the return of the Gorn, and we see some Vasquez rocks. So that was a cool shout out to Arena, but also. And I haven't heard anyone else point this out on the internet. I think I'm the first to make comment of this. But they're getting married in front of basically Vol from the episode The Apple.
So I had noticed that when I watched the episode, but yeah.
Oh my god!
I haven't said anything about it, but yeah.
Stone,
I forgot about Vol.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Vol. I totally forgot about Vol. Oh my gosh. That's how like long it's been since I seen that episode. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's a good one. I actually really like The Apple. I think it's kind of underappreciated. And the Romulan Guards, as we mentioned, they do make reference to the Remans, and their this ugly design that we talked about. And the idea of like extracting people from across the Romulan neutral zone in a box like this was seen in Star Trek: The Next Generation in the episode. I'm blanking on the name with Face of the Enemy.
Yes, Face of the Enemy.
When Troy was disguised as a Romulan. Of course, Q shows up, voiced by John Delancey, and he's wearing the Judge Q outfit from Encounter at Farpoint. And the game that he forces them to play is kind of reminiscent of the first season episode of Next Generation. What's the second Q episode? What's the name of it?
Oh, they all blur together. I'm sorry. Q something.
Q something, right? Q,
something
Q2,
something Q something dark side.
Q2, Q also, Q2. Can we call it that?
Oh, I can't remember because my brain is like running out of fuel. I apologize for going like too long on the.
No,
the
you're
Gorn
fine.
eggs.
You're fine.
We also have the salt vampire from the Man Trap. The Doctor thinking that she's stuck in a parallel universe where no one recognizes her. That's kind of combining two different ideas from the Next Generation. That is combining Remember Me with Dr. Crusher when everyone on the ship starts disappearing and she's in a pocket universe. And it's also similar to the episode Parallels where Worf is going on all these parallel universe enterprises. And the name of the ship that she was on is the Alhambra, a obvious California class ship. Like all the others, it's named after actual city in California, Alhambra. In the Boimler speech, he asks, did Picard know about the Borg? A nod to the Borg first being encountered in the episode Q. Who?
Yes.
And he says, did Kirk know about the giant Spock on Phylos? Reference to Infinite Vulcan. So if you don't want to accept that the animated series is canon, go fuck yourself. The animated series is canon. I'm not going to have that debate with anyone. Get over it. Dr. Crutcher also, Boimler mentions that ghost in the lamp thing from the Scottish planet that she hooked up with that one time. That was a very terrible episode, Sub Rosa.
PJ says it's Hide and Q, by the way, the episode you were trying to
Hide and Q, the one I couldn't think of, Hide and Q. Thank you, PJ.
I did have my mind blown a bit that everybody in Starfleet apparently knows that Crusher had sex with a ghost from a lamp, a candle.
That's why I say that
everybody knows it.
Like some of these things are. It sounds more like they watched the episode than
I know, but I thought it was kind of plausible at the same time because that would totally make it on the scandalous, like subspace chatter.
What if these future advanced Roddenberry humans are so advanced that like there wouldn't be any judgment or shame or anything involved in it, and it was okay for like that story to be public? I think that's kind of a stretch. I don't think that's exactly how it would go over in the Star Trek Society.
It is certainly an ideology Roddenberry. It's certainly an ideology Roddenberry had put forth behind the scenes about how they would deal with their sexual sex lives. Whether or not you believe that it made it on screen is another question. But it was certainly something Roddenberry wanted on screen.
I really love and adore that Sub Rosa keeps coming up as a point of controversy throughout Star Trek.
It's an absolutely terrible episode.
What's the controversy? I guess, does anyone like it? Is there some defenders of it out there?
I have grown. I hated the episode when it came out. Like I was like, but I've grown to fond of it, and it's for some weird reason. It's like what's the thing when you're held captive?
Stockholm syndrome.
It's like Stockholm syndrome. It's been so many years. I just have started to grow really fond of Sub Rosa, and I don't know why. It's such a weird episode.
Well, the last Gorn egg, because I'm really ready to end the show, is Boimler dropping the mic, dropping the horn of candor, and he just says drumhead. A reference to Picard's epic speechification in the episode Drumhead. And it kind of makes sense in universe because there is a drumhead trial is an actual thing. So that's all of the Easter eggs, in jokes, and canon connections I found in this episode. If I missed any, be sure to let me know. Like Brian did with the Vulcan phaser, I have to go and learn about that because I do not remember where that came from. But I'm glad that was brought to my attention. If there's anything else like that, let me know. And be sure to return next week.
Did anyone point out something you didn't know from last week's Gorn eggs?
No.
Sometimes
I do miss things, and if people pick up on them, I'll give you credit. Thank you, everyone who watched live and joined us in the chat. We always appreciate you being here. And we are later tonight going to be hanging out at Starfleet Boy After Dark.
For those of you who are here and want to go to that, it's roughly going to be at 10:45.
Okay, so at 10:45, that's in about 30
Eastern.
minutes.
Yeah, in 30 minutes Eastern.
So wherever you are now, add 30 minutes. That's what time you can join us. And hashtag TQIF is a weekly event. So we'll start it all over again next Friday at 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central.
Oh, one more thing. Everyone who's going to be on the show or coming to it, go watch Vin Diesel's music video or listen to the song that Vin Diesel put out today, because we'll be talking about it on Starfleet.
Okay. I didn't know that Vin Diesel made songs or music videos, so I guess I know what I'm about to watch.
To go watch.
All right, well, I'm going to go get my drink on and hang out with Starfleet Boy. And as always, until next time, live long and prosper, y'all.
Listen to the Tex-Trek podcast through Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or at tex-trek.com. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/tex-trek. And follow Fathery on Twitter at TXTrek. Please support us by liking our videos and subscribing to our channel on YouTube. Thank you and take care.